She cried over her lost necklace. I found it, in his car, under the passenger seat. It was a small gold chain with a heart-shaped pendant. I bought it for her on our 10th anniversary, had it engraved with our initials inside. She wore it constantly, in the shower, to bed, even when she dressed down for errands. That necklace was more than jewelry. It was a symbol, or so I thought. Our life was quiet, comfortable. We'd been married 12 years. No kids, by choice. Just the two of us in a modest house near the coast. I taught high school history, she was a freelance editor, working mostly from home. Mornings were slow, French press coffee, the radio humming low in the background, her bare feet curled up beneath her on the couch while she skimmed through manuscripts. I used to love those moments. The normalcy of them. The softness. She lost the necklace on a Wednesday. I remember because it was the same day my student Gabriel cried in class, something about his parents divorcing. It stuck with me. I came home that afternoon to find her pacing the kitchen, eyes red. "It's gone," she whispered, when I asked what was wrong. "I can't find the necklace. I think I lost it at the gym." That made me pause. She hadn't mentioned going to the gym. She hadn't mentioned it in months. And she wasn't dressed like she'd been, no gym bag, no sneakers, no towel. She wore her usual, leggings and a cardigan, hair up, bare face. "Which gym?" I asked casually, setting my keys on the hook. She hesitated. "The new one on Brighton." We both knew that place. It had opened 6 weeks ago. Trendy. Expensive. 20 minutes across town. "Thought you said their membership was overpriced," I said, heading to the fridge. "It is. But they offered a free day pass. I just needed to clear my head." I nodded. Didn't push. But something small shifted in me. A sliver of unease. That night, she seemed distant. She curled into me on the couch like always, but her hand rested lightly on my chest, not the way it used to. I told myself I was imagining things. Marriage ebbs and flows. But then came the change in her schedule. She started leaving the house more often. "Errands," she said. "Grocery runs. Long walks. The gym again." And each time she left, she came back lighter, not just physically, but emotionally. As if something had been lifted from her. Meanwhile, I was drowning in silence. It wasn't until the following Saturday that I found the receipt. She was in the shower. I was looking for a pen in her purse to sign a delivery form. Instead, I found a folded slip tucked between old receipts and lip balm. Auto Spa and Detail Center, full interior service. Friday, 4:30 p.m. License plate, ABX, 9127. My heart stopped. That was his car. Her coworker. The one she said barely talked to anyone. She'd mentioned him once, maybe twice, drives a sleek black BMW, bit of a show-off. So why was she getting his car detailed? I barely slept that night. She did. Peacefully, beside me. The next day, while she went out for coffee and groceries, I drove across town. Waited by the auto spa. Nothing. But just as I was leaving, I spotted the BMW parked behind the building, maybe left over from the day before. I couldn't help myself. I walked up to it, heart hammering. Looked in the windows. Clean. Empty. And then I saw it. Tucked half under the passenger seat, a flash of gold. I opened the door. Reached in. My fingers closed around the chain, her necklace. My legs nearly gave out. I stood there, stunned, staring at it in my palm. There was no reason for it to be in his car. None. She cried over her lost necklace. Said it must have slipped off at the gym. But it had slipped off here, instead. In his car. Now I just had to find out what else she'd left behind. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. I couldn't. My mind was doing somersaults trying to reason it out. Maybe she got into his car to talk. Maybe he gave her a ride home. Maybe she dropped it accidentally and didn't realize. But why hadn't she mentioned it? Why lie about the gym? She was humming when she came home that Sunday. Humming. Grocery bags in hand. A bouquet of sunflowers peeking out of one. Her favorite. Not mine. They were on sale, she said, placing them in a tall glass vase like nothing was wrong. I thought we could use something bright. I watched her closely. Looked for cracks in her smile. A twitch in her eye. But she was good. Too good. I started paying closer attention. Her texts, fewer, shorter. Her screen, always face down. Her laptop, now password protected. She'd never cared before. And then came the laughter. Late at night. Behind the door of her office. Not loud, but light. Floaty. I'd pass by with laundry in hand and hear her pause, then quickly close her tab. What are you working on? I asked once. Client manuscript, she said without looking up. Rom-com stuff. Funny. I guess. You know, I don't even read them fully when editing. That was a lie. She always read them fully. She said it helped her keep the tone consistent. I said nothing. Just nodded and walked away. But inside, the doubt was growing teeth. The next weekend, she said she had a freelancer meetup. Something local. A writer's circle hosted at a coffee shop in Midtown. Said she might stay out late. Don't wait up, she said, kissing me lightly on the cheek. Not the lips. The moment the door closed behind her, I grabbed my jacket and followed. She didn't go to Midtown. She didn't go anywhere near a coffee shop. I watched her from a distance, a few car lengths back, switching lanes when she did, always keeping one car between us. I'm a teacher, not a spy. But I'd watched enough detective shows to know the basics. She drove to a small parking lot behind a row of condos I didn't recognize. And then he appeared. The man from the BMW. Tall. Button-down shirt. Rolled sleeves. The kind of guy who jogs on weekends and uses words like clean eating. He smiled when he saw her. She smiled wider. They hugged. Not politely. Not briefly. Her hand lingered on his shoulder as he kissed her cheek. He said something that made her laugh, the same laugh I'd heard through her office door. Then they disappeared into the building. I didn't move for 5 minutes. Just sat in my car, engine off, hands numb on the steering wheel. Breathing shallow. Tunnel vision. They didn't come out for 2 hours. When she got home later that night, she kicked off her shoes, hung her coat, and walked right past me. Good night, she said, already halfway down the hall. I stared at her back. At the gold glint of earrings I hadn't seen before. Probably new. She wore those for him. I slept on the couch that night. Not because we argued, we hadn't said a word, but because I couldn't lie next to someone who smelled like lies. Something had shattered. I could feel it. I just didn't know what to do with the pieces yet. By the end of that week, I wasn't sleeping much. I would lie beside her in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the way she breathed. Calm. Even. Like someone with nothing to hide. I started counting the seconds between her breaths. It was the only thing that kept my hands from shaking. I kept the necklace hidden, in my sock drawer, buried under a stack of old concert tees she never touched. Every morning I'd glance at it, just to be sure it hadn't disappeared like the truth in our marriage. Then came the second message. She was in the shower. I was in the kitchen pretending to clean, when her phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, I wouldn't even look. But now, everything felt like an invitation. No name. Just a number. The message preview read: "Tonight. Same place. Bring the red one. You know I love it." The blood in my veins turned cold. She came out 10 minutes later, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, humming to herself. I handed her a fresh cup of coffee. She kissed my cheek and thanked me. "Big editing day?" I asked. "Ugh, yes. Client from hell. I might stay late in the office tonight." There it was. The softest kind of knife. I nodded, smiled. Said, "Let me know if you want dinner." She didn't. Of course she didn't. At 6:42 p.m., she left the house in a deep red dress I hadn't seen in years. Said it made her feel powerful. It made me feel sick. I waited 5 minutes. Then followed. Kept my distance this time. She wasn't heading downtown. She wasn't heading to a restaurant. No. She was heading west, toward the beachside rental neighborhoods. The kind with short-term leases, no paper trails, and never the same neighbors twice. She pulled into the driveway of a 2-story rental with white shutters and a soft blue porch light. Classy. Discreet. I parked 2 houses away and killed the engine. She walked up the steps. Didn't knock. Used a key. Used a key. And that's when I stopped seeing red, and started seeing everything. This wasn't an affair born of drunken mistakes or chance. This was built. Maintained. Federal. A place with a key. A dress picked out. A man with a wife and a system. It was structure. Ritual. Secret comfort. I sat there for nearly an hour. Long enough to watch the curtains glow with movement, then dim again. Long enough to feel the temperature drop and still not move. Eventually, I stepped out of the car. I didn't go to the door. I didn't smash windows. I didn't scream. Instead, I walked to the side of the house and pulled out my phone. Snapped a photo of her car in the driveway. Her shadow against the curtain. Then I walked back to my car and drove home. I knew then that it was over. But I also knew something else. She didn't deserve to be confronted. She deserved to be revealed. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. She came home just past midnight. I listened to her car pull into the driveway, the slow click of her heels up the front steps, the gentle sigh of the front door closing. No rush. No panic. Like someone returning from dinner with an old friend. I lay still as she crept into the bedroom, thinking I was asleep. She slipped off her shoes. Opened the closet. I heard the faint rustle of fabric, the red dress coming off, the hanger sliding. A drawer opened. Closed. The bed dipped beside me. Her hand brushed my shoulder. "I'm sorry I got in so late," she whispered. I didn't answer. She waited a beat, then turned away. Fell asleep in 5 minutes. I counted. In the morning, I made her coffee. French press, just the way she liked it. Vanilla oat milk. 2 teaspoons of sugar. I handed it to her without a word. She blinked. Surprised. "Thanks," she said cautiously. I smiled. "You looked like you needed it." She searched my face. I gave her nothing. Just a warm, practiced smile. For the next 2 weeks, I became perfect. Attentive. Present. Playful. I started cooking more. Asking her about her day. I even suggested we plan a weekend getaway, something we hadn't done in years. She softened. Her guard slipped. She started kissing me again. Started humming in the mornings. I caught her looking at me over dinner with something that might have been guilt. Or nostalgia. But I knew better. Because I was watching her. Closely. Every Thursday, she disappeared for 4 hours. Client deadlines, she said. Always the same tone. Always the same smile. So I started documenting. Photos. Times. Text messages. The red dress again. Once a blue blouse I didn't recognize. Another time, flowers in the trash, still wrapped, unopened. Then came the bank charge. I checked our shared account out of habit. Not because I suspected anything, just habit. That's when I saw it. $246. 75, Maison Parfum. She hated that store. Said it was overpriced garbage for influencer types. I clicked the receipt. A men's fragrance. Expensive. Imported. She hadn't bought anything for me in months. She was buying cologne for him. That night, I stayed late in the garage. Dug out an old lockbox I hadn't touched in years. It still had my external drive from college. I dusted it off, plugged it in. And I started building her profile. I copied everything. Screenshots. Camera footage from a cheap dash cam I installed outside the house. Call logs. Photos of her car parked at his rental. Everything. It was methodical. Clinical. Every liar has a rhythm. And I'd learned hers. Friday morning, I told her I booked a surprise couples massage for Sunday. She lit up like a teenager. Hugged me from behind while I cooked eggs. Said I was being sweet again. Just want us to feel like us, I said. She kissed my neck. Sunday came. I drove. She dressed up. Light makeup. Flowery dress. Legs crossed in the passenger seat like she hadn't ruined everything. But we didn't go to the spa. We went to a friend's house. A quiet guy named Derek. Someone she'd met once. Casual. Why are we here? She asked, brow furrowed. Trust me. Inside, Derek had set everything up. TV connected to my drive. Living room dark. Curtains pulled. A quiet hum from the speakers. She stood awkwardly. Is this a movie night? I hit play. The first photo filled the screen, her car. His driveway. She froze. Another photo. Her silhouette in the curtain. The necklace in my hand. Then the message. You left it under the seat again. You're lucky I caught it before my wife did. Silence. I stood beside her. Watched her face drain of all color. How long? I asked. She couldn't speak. Her lips parted. Then closed. How long have you been lying to me in my own house? I. Don't lie. Not now. She sat down. Hard. Like her knees gave out. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, watching the last 10 years of my life collapse in front of me. I loved you, I said. She whispered, I still. No, I said sharply. You loved what I gave you. The peace. The routine. The safety. You don't get to call that love anymore. She covered her face. I left the room. Derek followed me out, handed me the drive in a zip bag. Said nothing. Just nodded. On the drive home, she didn't speak. I didn't either. And for the first time in 12 years, I didn't care if she was crying beside me. The silence between us had weight. She didn't follow me into the house. Just sat in the car, staring at the dashboard like it might give her an answer I hadn't already found. I didn't wait. I unlocked the front door, stepped inside, and walked straight to the kitchen. turned on the faucet. Let the water run. I didn't know what I was rinsing off. But I stood there anyway, watching the water swirl down the drain. Eventually, I heard the door open. Then close. Her footsteps were hesitant. Lighter than usual. Like she thought the floor might shatter beneath her. She didn't speak. Not at first. Just hovered by the kitchen entrance. "Do you want to talk?" she asked. I didn't answer. "Please," she added. "I don't even know where to start." "Start anywhere. I'm not the one who's been hiding." She looked down. Her hands shook. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said. "You mean the affair? Or the part where I found out?" She flinched. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I turned to face her fully. "You didn't mean to get caught. That's not the same thing." She opened her mouth, closed it again. "How long?" I asked, not moving. She swallowed. "About 7 months." My heart didn't break. It calcified. 7 months of lies. 7 months of her slipping out while I was grading papers or planning anniversary dinners. 7 months of her letting me hold her, kiss her, sleep beside her. Why him? She blinked. "I don't know." Wrong answer. I mean, it just happened. We worked late one night. He understood the pressure. He listened. And then, one thing led to another. I laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. "You always hated that phrase. Remember? When your sister cheated on her boyfriend? You said, cheating isn't gravity. Things don't just fall." She looked like she wanted to disappear. "It wasn't serious," she said. "It wasn't love." "Then what was it?" She hesitated. "It was escape." I didn't expect that. Escape from what? From the predictability. The safety. You always knew what you wanted. You were good. Too good. It made me feel like a ghost. Like nothing I did could shake you. I stared at her. "So you needed to burn the house down to feel the warmth?" She didn't reply. I moved past her, down the hall. Into the bedroom. I pulled out the drawer where the necklace used to rest at night. Empty. Fitting. She followed me in. Stayed near the doorway like she didn't belong anymore. "What happens now?" She whispered. "Now?" I said, pulling out a suitcase from under the bed. "Now you pack." Her breath caught. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. We can work through this." "No," I snapped. "You already worked around me for months. I'm not giving you a second season to this show." She sat on the edge of the bed, face buried in her hands. I watched her shoulders tremble, but the part of me that used to rush to comfort her, that part was gone. I left the room. Gave her space. Let her cry in private. 2 hours later, she was gone. 1 suitcase. 1 duffel. She didn't ask for more. I didn't offer. She paused at the door, looking back at me like she was trying to memorize the frame. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I said nothing. She left. The house was too quiet afterward. Even the walls felt like they were holding their breath. I walked back into the bedroom. Sat on the side of the bed she used to sleep on. The indentation was still there. And for the first time in this whole mess, I let myself cry. The first week without her felt like standing inside a house after the power's gone out. Everything looked the same, but nothing worked. Her mug was still in the cabinet. Her perfume lingered faintly in the hall. I'd reach for my phone to text her before I remembered I had nothing left to say. Grief is strange. It doesn't move in straight lines. One moment I was numb, staring at the ceiling, and the next I was in the grocery store aisle holding a bottle of her favorite wine before it hit me, she wasn't coming back. She texted once. For days after she left. I'm staying at my sister's. I understand if you don't want to talk. I just want you to know, I never stopped loving you. I just stopped loving who I became. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say to that? That I missed her. I did. That I hated her. Some days. That she broke something in me I didn't know could break. Instead, I went quiet. Let the silence speak for me. I poured myself into routine. School. Grading. Long walks. I cooked too much food and left her side of the bed untouched. One evening, I passed by the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Not because I looked different, I didn't. But because I didn't flinch. I wasn't waiting for the betrayal anymore. I wasn't walking on emotional eggshells. The silence had settled into something like peace. Then came the package. It arrived 2 weeks after she left. Small box. No return address. Just my name written in her handwriting. Inside, the necklace. Polished. Clean. No note. Just the weight of it in my palm, like a memory I couldn't throw away. I almost hurled it into the ocean that night. But instead, I drove. To a bluff overlooking the water, where we used to go in the early days. Before the lies. Before the distance. I stood there, the wind clawing at my jacket, the necklace dangling from my fingers. And I talked to her, or the version of her that existed in my memory. I told her I missed the mornings. The soft quiet. The way she'd tuck her legs under herself and hum while reading. I told her I missed how she used to reach for my hand in movie theaters like it was instinct. But then I told her the truth. That I wasn't coming back. That love doesn't survive in shadows. That she killed something when she chose comfort over honesty. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But I didn't. Instead, I wrapped the necklace back into its box, walked to the edge of the bluff, and left it there. Just under the bench where we carved our initials years ago. Maybe someone will find it someday. Maybe they'll think it's just a lost trinket. But I'll know. It was the last thing I gave her. And the last thing she'd ever take from me. Grief faded into a kind of stillness. Not peace, not yet, but something quieter. Something that didn't crush my chest every time I opened the bedroom door. I started walking more. Just after dusk, when the neighborhood slipped into its quiet rhythm, porch lights glowing, wind brushing the trees. I passed the same houses we used to walk by together. The same dogs barking behind fences. The same smell of grilled onions from the family 3 doors down. Everything unchanged. Except me. One night, I ran into Ellie. She was walking her dog. Alone. Her eyes flicked toward me, unreadable. "Hey," I said, unsure. She gave a nod. "Hey." Silence stretched between us like a bridge no one wanted to step on. Then, she told me. I nodded. Of course she did. Ellie sighed. I didn't know. Not until after. I swear. I didn't say anything. She looked at me, softer now. You didn't deserve that. It hit me harder than I expected. Hearing someone else say it out loud. Naming it. Thanks, I managed. She hesitated. She's not doing great. I exhaled slowly. That's not my problem anymore. I know. I just thought you'd want to know. I didn't. I walked away before I could say something cruel. Because even after everything, part of me still wanted to be kind. And that was the part of myself I refused to lose. A few days later, I opened the hall closet to grab an old jacket. A card fluttered to the floor. Her handwriting. It must have slipped between the shelves months ago. I picked it up, opened it slowly. It was an anniversary card. Not the last one, this was from years back. You are my home. No matter where we go, what we do, I only feel whole next to you. I sat down right there on the floor, card still open in my hand, and let myself feel everything. The love. The betrayal. The loss. But also, the clarity. That I had given everything honestly. That I had been the man I said I'd be. And that leaving wasn't the end of me, it was the beginning of something else. I stood up. Put the card in a box with a few old photos. Not to forget. Just to honor what was real, and what wasn't. That weekend, I drove up the coast. Stayed at a small inn with chipped paint and ocean views. I didn't tell anyone. Left my phone in the glove box. One morning, I stood at the edge of the water, waves lapping at my ankles, and I whispered out loud. I forgive you. The wind didn't change. The ocean didn't pause. But I did. And that was enough. It's strange, how endings don't always come with thunder. Sometimes, they come quietly, in the form of a morning without ache, a memory that no longer burns. It had been 3 months since she left. The house had found a new rhythm. My rhythm. Morning started with silence, and I had come to love that silence. No more waiting for footsteps, no more guessing games. Just breath, and coffee, and the sea. One evening, I opened the windows and let the wind sweep through the house. It smelled like rain and salt and eucalyptus, the scent of beginning again. That was when the doorbell rang. I knew it was her before I looked. She stood there in jeans and a soft sweater, nothing polished or planned. Just her, carrying the weight of what she'd done in her eyes. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She didn't move far. Just inside the threshold. Like she knew she no longer belonged here. I won't stay long, she said. I just needed to say something. I nodded once. Let her speak. I've gone to therapy, she began. I've written you 100 letters I'll never send. I tried to understand what I broke, and why I broke it. Her voice didn't tremble. But her hands did. You didn't deserve any of it. And I know sorry isn't enough. But I wanted to say it anyway. Not to get something from you. Just to leave it here, where I left so much damage. I let her words settle in the air. Then nodded again. Thank you for saying that, I said. We stood in silence for a long moment. Not the silence of tension, but of recognition. That we had been something real, once. And something broken. And both could be true. You look better, she said quietly. I feel better. She smiled, just barely. A sad, accepting thing. Then she turned to leave. Wait, I said. She looked back. You were right, you know, I added. Back when you said you stopped loving who you became. I think I stopped loving who you became too. But I never stopped hoping you'd find your way back to yourself. She didn't cry. But her eyes shimmered. I'm trying, she whispered. And with that, she left. This time, I didn't watch her walk away. I just closed the door. Slowly. Quietly. And stood there in the soft golden light of evening, knowing. Some chapters don't end with a bang. Some just end. And finally, that was enough.